Okay, this session for today is sponsored by. No, I'm joking. This session is going to be on what is youth-led research and campus advocacy for sustainable development. We have together with us three panelists. Number one, Jenny. Jenny is a law student at the University of Bristol, UK, serving as a student global ambassador. A two-time champion, runner-up in English-speaking union, international public speaking competition, and current debate convener at her university. She has led fundraising for the Nepal Dolpo Winter Clinic charity and volunteers as an English tutor for immigrant children in the UK. She hopes to draw from these experiences in community engagement and youth empowerment to contribute meaningfully to discussions on the UN SDGs. Number two, we have Hasnatul Shakira. Shakira is one of our SDG agents while pursuing her PhD in administrative science, focusing on policy, public policy regarding third sector of Malaysia. She's passionate in giving back to the society through the effort of localizing and integrating the SDG frameworks into actionable, community-driven solutions. Now, finally, our last speaker for today, our panelist, is Muhammad Fikri, a 19-year-old dynamic youth leader and public and administration student at University Technology Mara. He has served as president of the Robotic Club and Hostel Management Committee of MRSM Kuching, all the way from Kuching, by the way. Fikri has represented Malaysia at the World Orchid Conference in Taiwan and the Orchid Micro Propagation Workshop in the UK, earning the Young Investigator Award. With strong leadership, technical and communication skills, he actively contributes to youth empowerment both at national and international levels. Ladies and gentlemen, this is panel 3. You've got background music now. No, joking. Just breaking the ice. All right, I'm going to pass the floor to our speakers one by one for them to introduce yourself, what is the initiative that you're working on, and how have you as a youth contributed to the advocacy through research or campus capacity perspectives for SDGs. Now, SDGs itself are a global framework. So sometimes the question that people might ask is, hey, I'm just doing another project for the community. How am I related to the SDGs? Well, the SDGs are a framework that provides and supplements community work. And by having research and campus-based capacity work, we are able to see the youth progress and involvement in sustainable development. So, passing the floor first to Mr. Fikri. Oh, terkejut. Over to you.
Yes. So, hi, my name is Fikri. I am 19 years old. To be exact, 19 years old and 10 days. Yeah. So, what I did is I'm focusing on conservation in orchids, especially Sarawak orchids, because in Malaysia, fun fact lah, in Malaysia we have around 4,000 species of orchids, but in Sarawak only we have 2,500 species of orchids. That is recorded before COVID. So for sure now it's maybe 3,000 already, but we don't know. And then what I did is before I entered university, I was in MRSM Kuching. So in my school, we have one lab, which is in vitro orchid micropropagation lab, which is the first lab in Southeast Asia that school have, and is fully funded by the state government. So in that lab, we do conservation of orchids in lab terms, which is in vitro, which is in glass. Usually, if we talk about plants or flowers, people would say that main tanah and everything, but we didn't use tanah. We use Phytomax, which is arang, and then we use agar, and then we tanam the orchids inside the Betamax that we use, and then wait for a few months, selepas tumbuh, and then we put outside. And by doing that, we managed to, there's one orchid that has been pupus, and dekat Sarawak lah. And then we managed to get the seeds from UK, because we have partnership in UK with Wellington School at Bath. So we minta the seeds from them, and then we berjaya untuk bring it back to Sarawak. And Alhamdulillah, we have that orchid again in Sarawak. And what motivated me to do this is because in UK they only have 17 species of orchid, but they are really committed in doing conservation in orchid. While in Sarawak we have 2,500 orchids, but I didn't see any like organization that really focusing to conserve the orchid, because orchids is one of the penyumbang in ecosystem. It's not parasite. Usually people see orchids tumbuh dekat pokok-pokok, but actually it's not parasite. Sorry. So yeah.
Share about your journey.
Oh, about my journey. So back in 2019, when I was Form 1, my science teacher tell me that, hey Fikri, you good in science kan? I think you should join this program. At first, I don't want lah, because it's orchid and I'm boy man. I play rugby, I play football. Takkan lah nak main dengan bunga. So at first, I just join lah secara terpaksa. But then, after I see what I can did with apa yang saya boleh buat dengan join this program, slowly minat itu datang. And then in 2023, I was selected to join like exchange program with Wellington School. So I flew to UK for 2 weeks, and then I learned more about what they do. And then I've been to Cambridge Botanical Garden, Bristol Botanical Garden, and Oxford and Kew Garden. So I see how they conserve orchid, even though they only have 17 species. But I can say that they have every species orchid in the world they have. So I think, why not we in Malaysia, we have the good weather, not like them. They are really cold, so they need to tanam dekat greenhouse. But in Malaysia, we have the optimum temperature for orchids. So I think that kita tak perlu pun ada greenhouse, because most of people say that, oh, we need to have greenhouse, blah blah blah. And that sebenarnya membazir, because we have the good weather. So why not just tanam and then do it? And I know that there are some orchid garden in Malaysia, but fun fact is, the orchid there, most of them is not originally from Malaysia. It is hybrid orchid from Taiwan, from Thailand. And Sarawak also, we have sebelah Dun, we have Sarawak Botanical Garden, but Sarawak Orchid Botanical Garden, but only 10% of orchid inside there is from Sarawak. 90% of them is imported from Taiwan and Thailand and hybrid. So I think that's big no, because the name is Sarawak Orchid Botanical Garden. So we need to put more Sarawak orchid there. And I'm part in organization persatuan, which is Sarawak Orchid Society. So recently I was selected as the youth ambassador and exco for youth by our founder, which is Yang Mulia Tengku Dr. Hajah Abroza Tengku Abraham. And in fact that she's the one that paksa I to be here. She told me, hey Fikri, if you come there, become speaker, I will sponsor you everything. At first I don't want, but then the next day he sent me the tickets. So I was like, thank. So I have to go lah, because she already bought the tickets. So here I am. And actually I didn't prepare anything. So sorry if like, yeah. So after 5 years in this persatuan, I think that as a youth, we have the responsible, because in the future we are gonna kita yang akan duduk di bumi ini, and we have to jaga the ecosystem, because if not us, who, right? So as a youth, and yeah, I think that's it lah. Sorry.
Thank you very much, Fikri. I would like to take the attention to the orchids here. Initially, when you said the orchid, and when I read through, I was like, oh, orchid, interesting. This is very interesting, very specific to orchid conservation. And interestingly, there was actually, if you notice, our SDG explorers, they are going around and trying to figure out where the places are, because it's a mall. Maybe it's a bit confusing. But one of the stations here is the Sacred Garden. And 2 days ago, we took a photo, and they have to identify where the plant is. And it was actually quite a difficult plant to find. And it was a spider lily orchid. So very small there, very tiny, but very, very beautiful. And I think that's the beauty of it lah. When we are engaging in the conservation of environment, we have to, we have to see ourselves as an ecosystem. And one important thing or key factor that I learned from your sharing was also experiential learning, because that realization of the fit-in of the youth to their career pathway is through experiential learning. Until you try it out, you never know. One of my friends told me this, that as a youth, you must see everything as going to a kopitiam, because there's so much of options. So you need to identify, actually you need to explore different options first before you actually find your niche taste. So I hope along in the future, you'll find your niche taste and where you're settling in as a youth. Okay, going forward, I would like to pass the floor to our second speaker, Shakira. Shakira has been with us from 2023 as a youth SDG agent, and moving forward very strongly with her PhD. I believe it's bottom-up approach on NGO accountability. Very significant. As a youth, how do you engage with grassroots communities, and also what has your research shown? Shakira, over to you.
Okay, I'm sorry. Okay, Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and very good evening. Firstly, I want to thankful to PPGM SDG and my SDG Academy for giving this platform for me to share with you guys today. So my name is Hasnatu Shakira. You can call me Shakira. I'm pursuing my PhD in Administrative Science at UiTM Shah. So currently, I'm in my last semester. I'm waiting for my viva. So please pray for me, inshallah. Okay. So my thesis, I'm focusing on the downward accountability among non-profit organizations. So I believe what I'm trying to do with my thesis is align with the SDG approach, which is starting from bottom up. So downward accountability. Accountability, briefly, I'm aware that all of us understand is responsibility. So in my thesis, we are enhanced on how non-profit organization in Malaysia is being accountable towards their beneficiaries. So in every organization, they have stakeholders. So for non-profit organization, of course, they have various stakeholders. But what I'm seeing in Malaysia, third sector, most of the non-profit are only focusing on their, what we can call is upward stakeholders, which are the donors, the authorities, which they have the formalities that they have to submit their report annually. But how about the beneficiaries? The beneficiaries are actually their main goals, why they establish their non-profit organization. But they tend to neglect their needs and satisfaction. So for the simplest example you can see as for the flash flood. During the flash flood, for the victims, back years when there is the issues with the women hygiene products such as pad, sanitary pads, and also clean panties. Of course, this is their needs at that time. We have to, the women need to have the clean products for the sanitary pad, the panties, but they have failed to fulfill the needs. They tend to more focusing on the foods, on the clothing, and some on another issue for the clothing. Somehow, it tends to be like they're not really looking at the situation. For the clothing, the numbers of the victim might mostly not cater enough clothing for the men. Many clothing comes for the women's attire. So how about men? They have to wear kain batik, but it's okay. But we can see that it might be a small matter, but it shows that our non-profit still fail to actually fulfill the needs of the beneficiaries. So actually, when they're able to be accountable towards their beneficiaries, then only they can achieve their effectiveness. Effectiveness means they're able to achieve their main goals, which is the fulfill the needs of the beneficiaries, their main stakeholders actually, but they tend to fail at their at all their action. So in my research, we are focusing on the 5 main mechanism, which are information disclosure, participation mechanism, feedback and complaint, and also staff attitude, and lastly self-regulation. So why bottom approach? As I say, we need the beneficiaries to speak out. So in focusing on the downward accountability is actually giving their platform more platform. For example, for the participation mechanism, we want the beneficiaries to actually involve in not only in complain and giving their feedback, but also involving in the discussion phase, so that when they execute program or they want to deliver their aids, it's more catered to their needs at that time. So it will be very effective. And then I want to share about my experience why I'm choosing this accountability element. I believe that as I'm a Muslim, this is very familiar concept with me, because we believe that whatever we do, we must remember that Allah always watching us. So being accountable is one of under the big umbrella of integrity. We must do good thing despite of anyone watching us. So being accountable, no matter what, no matter people know that you are being accountable or not, but you still have to execute it rightly. So back in years, in my degree years, I was active involving in society, what we call in UiTM is Brigade Sukarelawan. So of course, I'm being the volunteers. But somehow, I'm observing that our non-profit still less be effective in achieving their beneficiaries' need. So that's why for furthering my PhD, I'm choosing the accountability and downward accountability, because I see that there is less, as I mentioned before. They're more focusing on the donors and authorities, but they forget that beneficiaries are their main goals. Actually, why they established the MPO at the first place.
Thank you very much, Shakira. Can you hear me? Thank you very much, Shakira, for that amazing information on your research, especially. One thing that I noted, especially, is on what we define impact as. I think, so you learned a bit about experiential learning, then you learned a bit about in-depth research. So understanding, all of us are representatives of some form of affiliation, perhaps organizations, corporate companies. I don't know if you guys are any of you from the media, any sort of. But most important thing is, with all the beneficiaries that we all work with, what exactly is impact? What is this term that we keep using in the sustainability sphere, but nobody knows what exactly is impact? I'll get back on impact right after this. I'm passing the floor to Jenny. Jenny, over to you. Please share your story.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well today. My name is Jenny. I am 18 years old. I am a first-year student at the University of Bristol. I'm doing my degree in law. I actually just came back from the UK about 2-3 weeks ago. I was crying to my mom and dad, please let me come home. And my parents were joking. It's like, instead of being sent to study abroad, it was more like sending me in exile to another country. But I'm very glad to be back home. And what I actually wanted to share today is sort of related to my degree in university. Although I'm only in my first year, so I'm not some self-proclaimed lawyer or anything like that. But growing up, I did a lot of competitive debating and public speaking. And through a very recent public speaking competition I had, I met two wonderful girls who are only around the same age as me, around 17, 18 as well. And they had started their own NGO, which was called Law for Minor. And the aim of this NGO started by these two very young girls is to aim to create an organization that is fully researched, fully led by people of their age or even younger than us, to try and promote more legal awareness, so people are more aware of their rights in society. They're more aware of what they can do or what they cannot do in the general, when it comes to general crimes or things like that. And I asked them before coming to this event, which was what inspired you to create this sort of organization? What inspired you to try and make some sort of, as you said, impact like that? And they said they were inspired by the general youth delinquency that they would see in our daily lives. And I think you can tell this from the topics that they do write and research and talk about, which is, for example, the most recent issues of people using AI to create deepfake photos of young girls in schools, or even, leaking screenshots of group chats. These are very real issues that do affect young people. And I find that the way that we need to engage young people to take initiative and take change is actually to show them that these issues, very real problems, affect them in the first place. And only that when they realize that this sort of impact will affect their lives and affect the people that they love, their friends and family, only will they feel motivated and encouraged that, oh, I actually have to do something about this. So when it comes to that point, when they realize that these are very real issues that do affect us, where do they go? Where do they find solutions? Where do they find platforms or organizations to try and push them and provide them the tools to actually make the change that they want to make to their own community? And I realized that it's not just with NGOs like this, and a huge part of how this NGO was able to start was because of schools and institutions that facilitate these safe spaces, these environments to encourage students to actually take change. There are teachers who give you that sort of permission and right to, let you be able to form your own organizations, form your own communities or clubs, or promote something or protest something that you wish to make a change in. And this is not just this organization in particular is talking about legal rights and litigation. I believe that this can apply to a lot of different fields that we are concerned about, especially with our sustainable development goals, whether it's in environment, whether it's in politics and governance, in many different fields. The theme of this particular lab is about campus advocacy, which is essentially allowing students to have that sort of environment where they can feel that they can take a step forwards outside of what they're used to. When young people are so used to being told that they're too young to know anything, young people are told that they're not able to really take that step. They don't have that sort of authority. It's important that we have these environments and institutions to allow them to be able to make that step.
Awesome, Jenny. Thank you. Thank you very much, Jenny. And amazing. So how do we link policy and also relating it to organizational development when it comes to issues? So you learned about experiential learning, what is happening on the ground. You learned about in-depth research. And finally, we come to the stage of setting up the system of how this whole mechanism works. In your journey of involvement and what you're doing on the ground, how do we move from being tokenistic to actually being accountable? So let me bring your attention to what is your role in the work that you do, that you follow up with your communities, or the follow-up that you do with the communities that you work with. Let's say, for example, the Orchid do you do campaigns? How do you promote prevention or awareness of the agendas that you push for? And how does it relate to the impact that you're looking forward to, the outcome that you're expecting? So can I pass the floor first to Fikri?
I think how we want to increase the involvement from other youth is by bring them to see the reality. For example, it's happened to me actually when, yeah, I told you guys just now that at first I do sekadar sambil lewa, and then after I joined a trip to Mount Santubong, at that time with Dr. Simon Puff. He's from UK. So when he bring me and my friends inside to the Santubong, then he show us that.
Can you tell us a bit of what is Sang Tubong?
Oh, Mount Santubong is one of the famous mountain in Sarawak. If you guys heard about Putri Santubong, Putri Sejinjang, so yeah. So it's one of the famous mountain in Sarawak. So when we go there, it opened my eyes how beautiful and how important orchid is. So from there, mencentek my hati to really do this. Like, okay, no more playing around. This is serious matter because actually orchid has a lot of benefits in terms of medicines, and people, usually orang kampung, they took the orchids and then sell it, and actually it cannot, like they took the orchids from the jungle and then jual secara haram. So that is one of the punca why orchids nowadays extinct. So when I know about that, so I realized that as a youth, we have to bring awareness to people that this is not a good things to do. So as a student, I think the most impactful things to bring more youth to join is bring them to see the reality. What is the cost? What is the kesan if we don't do this? Then how we can prevent something. So yeah.
Thank you, Fikri. I'll get back to your attention on what is with the work that you have done. I believe you said that you have worked on this for 5 years. And so along these 5 years, what kind of impact have you seen your work in the awareness raising for for promoting orchid awareness? So I'll bring that question back to you. I'll move on to our speakers first, and then I'll come back to you on that. Okay? Moving to Shakira, what kind of impact do you see, or what do you, in your work that you do, how do you see the accountability factor to follow up with your stakeholders so that it's not just the tokenistic involvement, but there is a follow-up to it?
Okay, for me, I believe accountability is actually a core value that needed not only for an organization to survive, but also within yourself. So relate to my research back, as I see that how to increase involvement among the youth. As I said, if you want to be the change maker, if you want to be a leader, it needs to start within yourself that you need to be accountable. So you have to nurture that value first. It's not that, and one more thing, what we can do for me, I believe to spread this value nurture is by it come back to yourself, which is you have to always take opportunities. Grab your opportunities in front of your eyes, and you can't wait for others to give it to you. So when you find any platform, such as for now, I believe by involving in the SDG agent, I'm spread about the accountability value. I'm spreading among my future leaders about the accountability, and not so I'm trying to say that accountability is not only needed for an organization, but it must start within yourself. So then it will have a massive impact to others.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Shakira. I want to get your attention back to one thing. What exactly is accountability? Think about it. I'll get back to you in the next segment. Jenny, over to you.
I don't think that tokenistic involvement is necessarily the worst thing in the world. I think that it definitely plays a role in getting some sort of involvement at all from youths. I think that in this current status quo where young people are very preoccupied with their education, they're preoccupied with a lot of other things in their lives or just general other distractions that they may have. The real question is, why should they care about anything? Why should they care about making any sort of change at all? And I think that the role that this sort of tokenistic involvement or any sort of participation from the youths, general participation, not really doing anything substantial, can still be beneficial to some extent, because at least it invites them to have some sort of experience. It invites them to have some sort of exposure to the issues that they might face or the issues that we are concerned about or that they should be concerned about. And I think this goes back to, again, what we keep mentioning about experiential learning, having that sort of exposure, knowing that these issues, whether in your legal rights or environment, does actually affect you, is what pushes young people, I believe, to then take the next step, and in a sort of ripple effect or butterfly effect, that once they have that sort of initial exposure, once they kind of know that these problems are out there, but these tools, these organizations, these communities are also out there, that they are pushed towards actually taking the next step to do something on their own.
Amazing. Thank you, Jenny. And yeah, true. Very true. So, interestingly, our department in APPGM for youth, we kind of, I don't believe that purpose is you suddenly wake up at night and you realize, oh, hey, I cannot use the word realize. I'm going to use the word realize afterwards. You don't wake up suddenly and like, oh, the tube light in your head rings out and says, this is my purpose in life. No. As a matter of fact, it comes as a realization method. After a few years, you start to realize the patterns of how your interest has developed, and then you slowly fit your niche in. And so, where I'm trying to get at is, I want to come back to you on one question. How or what is the methodology in which youths can involve themselves after participation? And so in our department, the method or the system that we saw and we realized was, we start with network. Perhaps this summit space as a new networking space for many of us, coming from different organizations, individual capacity, starts with network. Then moving forward to skill and knowledge development, and then finally engagement in the system or having the identity. And that is how the Youth SDG Agent Initiative itself was realized to be how it was. And the setup. So you see our SDG Agent is quite strong here, moving about and pushing for the local agendas for sustainable development. So I'm bringing back attention to Fikri on your question earlier. So can I bring back to you?
So your question earlier is about what I've did to the community, right?
What kind of impact,
Impact.
have you seen in your 5 years in terms of awareness? Started with awareness, but have you seen after that, there is some kind of change that has happened?
So what I see after I do the awareness campaign in my village, which is at Kota Samarahan. So I've met Melissa, which is a PPM SDG from Sarawak, and then I married a PPGM SDG Sarawak with Saroso, and then by that we get fund from FPPGM, and then we grow a community using that fund. So instead of they just ambil the orchid secara illegally, we tanam the orchid first, and then we ambil the orchid that we tanam. And then we also have the license, because in Sarawak, in order for you to get orchids, you need to have a license. So Saroso have the license. So we give the opportunity to orang kampung to tanam orchids and then sell the orchid to us. And in return, the orchid that they sell to us, we produce a product, which is Sarawak orchid tea, chocolate, and oil. And now, alhamdulillah, we already do that as a income for the orang kampung sekitar. And in the future, we are planning to do this kind of program to other kawasan in Sarawak. So
Awesome. Thank you very much, Fikri. Now, Shakira, over to you.
Okay, so your question for me is what is accountability? Okay, for me, why I really like this accountability because, in my personal opinion, um, for all the problems that I observe what happens in our country, it happens because of lack of accountability. I believe we all have our own roles. The government has their own roles, the private sector have their own roles, the third sector. That's why I'm saying that when you have accountability, when you have the sense of responsibility, then you will carry out your tasks. And I believe if everyone playing their role correctly, being accountable towards what they're supposed to be, then might be the problem will be solved. So that's why accountability must be start within yourself. When you have that sense of accountable, even carrying out a small matter, a small task of your daily routine, means you will start within yourself and then you will go for massive impact. That's why it always must start within yourself, which is being accountable first for your own self. Then you can spread to others lah. That's why in order for a big organization to have accountability to others, the members of the organization themselves has to be accountable first. Then I believe we can solve more problems if we have that sense of accountability. That's why what is accountability for me? To solve every problem that we have.
What I heard from you is two important things. Number one was accountability as responsibility, and number two is people or stakeholders realizing what their roles is. When we realize what our roles are more defined, then we have responsibility to their roles, and that is accountability. Jenny, bringing forward to you.
Your question was about methodology, was
Methodology,
it?
yeah.
Okay. I would like to say that I believe that there's no exact methodology for how someone can go from realizing that there's a problem and then going into resolving that issue. And I say this because there's a myriad of ways, there's many ways that this can be done to bring something that they believe in or they have passion to change into actualization. And I bring you three examples. One is the organization that I mentioned earlier, which is Law for Minor, which was created by two young girls who decided that they wanted to resolve the issue of our generation not being aware of their general legal rights. And so they decided to form a group and connect with people from their classrooms, people from their schools, people that they met outside of schools, and form something together online and create their own website and social media. Secondly, there's in my university in the UK, one of my extracurriculars or just side things that I do is tutor immigrant children, children coming in from Somalia or different countries who have just immigrated or their parents have just immigrated and they're having difficulty with their English because it's a fully English-speaking country. They have issues with adjusting to school and having the same equal kind of foothold platform starting off with their education compared to their classmates who were born and raised in the UK. So this organization was again started by young people, university students who believed that they needed to help support these first or second generation immigrants in the UK and give them a better footing in education and thereby their life outside of school as well, whether it's just normal daily exchanges, talking to people at the grocery store or making friends at school, for example. And then the third example I would like to bring up is also from the UK, where in the psychiatric hospital in my city in the UK, where there's a lot of patients who are lonely, they don't really have kind of access to go out, and so a group of university students decided to just get together and go there every weekend and have tea and have a talk with them, have a chat with them, play board games with them. And these three different examples of organizations or people wanting to take initiative to make change was started from very different ways. But I think that there's one key thing they have in common, which I can suppose would be that methodology that we talked about, is having that sort of space for collaboration or networking, as you would call it, having that place for people to connect and find that, oh, you're concerned about this issue as well. I also have a sort of passion or desire to bring change for this issue in this particular field. And I think being able to promote these spaces, whether it's summits like these, events like these, or just in classrooms or in schools, which the most obvious answer, I believe, would be school as a collaborative space, as a space where you can find people with your mutual ideas, is the way that we can bring these issues into actualization and allow people to actually foster what they want to bring about.
Awesome. Thank you, Jenny. Actually, we're calling out for questions from the floor. If you have any questions, please do prepare your questions. I'm taking maximum of 2 questions if there are any. Okay, now I'm bringing back to the summary of the points, and I want our speakers to prepare one sentence of what do you see the role of youth, the importance of research, and the importance of youth-to-youth advocacy. How do we inspire our fellow friends, fellow generation in aspiring to be sustainable change makers? Okay, I want you to think of that one sentence as I get a summary of what exactly are we talking about. We are building an ecosystem, and the ecosystem starts, actually everyone just perfectly placed all the information right on board, talking about experiential learning, starting with experience. One thing that, this was my personal reflection as a youth itself, was I never really was interested in, not how to say interested, like, how to make it sound more diplomatic. I was quite taken aback when sometimes people are just in that international space, or the language changes when you're at a high-level event. The language of youth changed. I was given the grace to attend the Summit of the Future last year in the United Nations HQ, and in that space itself, the language used is very different among the youths, and it starts to become like very corporate, or when I say corporate, not in a bad way, but it's very formal, that you can feel the sense of them not being able to express themselves properly in that fullest manner. And so, what are areas of restrictions that we are seeing when we are talking about youths? How do we empower them? What are the spaces that we are creating? Are we creating a space that is restricting youths to actually be the fullest and free to express themselves when it comes to the matters the things that matter to them the most? And number 2 is in terms of starting with the network, starting with the experience, go on the ground. I think that is one very important thing that at APPGM we have tried to push for, especially for our SDG agents, is go on the ground. Learn with the community first before you are able to go and talk to the high-level events. If you don't know what's happening on the ground, no point for you to go out there and represent, because you're representing the people. If you're representing the people, then you need to live with the people. You need to identify with the people. Our passion needs to be mapped together with what exactly our community is living. That makes it beautiful. And that's what complements partnership. Then we move on to the research part of it. How in-depth research does not die with research, but it's action-oriented. And one thing unique is on action research that allows, once the research is done, together with that complementing is the action in the community that is done. So I am grateful that the Youth SDG Agent Initiative has moved to such a state where it not only does on research, but also the community work that follows it. Shakira was also going for the site visit with our team to Lumut, Perak, and going for focus group discussions with the community on identifying exactly what is the issues that the community is facing when they are talking about sustainable development. And we are representing the voice of the community. Youths are there as change makers, but we also need to know what needs to be changed. If we don't know what to change, then how to change. Then finally, coming to the aspect of system, organization. Youths have the capacity to actually push forward and create organizations, as Jenny shared. And that is the beauty of it. Now, we need to see the partnership that works with it. Because all of us are partners and we need to find the complementing factor of each partners. We participate and also we partner. We participate intentionally. And I hope that this summit experience for everyone is intentional with your partnership. You're intentionally joining the summit for a better future. So I'm passing the floor to our any question and answers. Do we have any question and answers from the floor? I'm counting down from 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. On how to empower you and youth.
So one word that I would say is trusting youth to save tomorrow, which is as a youth, you have to trust others also. You cannot only bergantung kepada the orang yang lebih tua to develop, because you have to do it by your own. If you just wait untuk disuruh like, hey, you should this, you should do that, you should do that. If no one do that, if no one tell you, then you're not gonna do. So you, as a youth, should do it and bring your friends and together to make it happen.
Wow. Accountability again, huh? Accountability has been a very strong theme these few days. Shakira.
Okay, for me, I would say that we are my own, the tagline that I use in the social media, data with purpose, advocacy with power. Because I believe when we have the knowledge, when we go down and see the recondition of our communities, then we have the knowledge, what we want to do, what is the problem, then only we can provide the solution. So that is why for me, we have to collect the data, so we have the purpose, and then we can advocate with power. We know what we want to do, we have the confidence to move forward, to provide the solution.
Awesome. Data driven with purpose. Data with purpose, advocacy with power. Purpose and power. Jenny.
For my tagline, I think I'm going to plagiarize myself from a different speech I gave in a different event a couple weeks ago. And the tagline was, or the title of my speech was, "One foot in front of the other." And I think what this statement brings is two things. One is that even small steps is still huge movement towards the top. It still counts. And secondly, it's a reminder to not give up and that it's okay to make mistakes. Only that the moment that you feel that you can't do anything at all and so you don't take any action, that's when you've really hit kind of a wall. But even if it's a small step, even if you make mistakes, which of course as a young person you're bound to do, you have very little experience in, for example, organizing things or gathering people or forming a new initiative, you're bound to make mistakes. But being able to, as a society, be forgiving of that and still allow them to try again and over and over and over again is what allows youths to feel confident enough to actually take those steps and actualize what they want to change about this world.
Amazing, amazing. And one song that came to my mind was "One Day at a Time." Sorry, it's a very old song lah, which basically says is take one step at a time, 1 foot at a time, so that you're more intentional in what you do and you're calling everyone to accountability. Ladies and gentlemen, that is Labs number 3. Your host, Philus. Thank you very much. Pass the floor to MC.